All right, mathematicians, in this lesson we're going to multiply a fraction by a fraction, but we're going to use a model. So let's get started here. We have 1/4 times 1/2. What this actually means is, it actually means I'm going to find 1/4 of 1/2. So what I have is, I have 1/2 of a whole amount. And so I can shade in 1/2 of a whole amount. And I want to find 1/4 of this amount. So one way that I can do that is to look at this shape in the black part here, that's 1/2. But I'm actually going to split it into 4 equal parts going the other direction, because now I can look at this model in 2 different ways. I can look at it in halves and I can look at it in fourths. And so when I look at how many pieces do I have in 1/4 of this model, I actually have 1 piece, and in the whole amount, how many parts are in this whole shape now? There are actually 8 parts. So if I find 1/4 of 1/2, I get 1/8. Let's try another one. In this example here, we're going to be doing 1/2 times 3/4. Now it means the same thing as 1/2 of 3/4. So pretend that you've got, or imagine that you have 3/4 of something. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a model that shows 3/4. And I love Costco cake, so I'm going to pretend that this is a Costco cake. And I have 3/4 of that Costco cake. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take 1/2 of that 3/4. So what I can do is I can split this cake into half. Now what I've done is I've actually created 8 pieces here. You can see that in my whole amount there are 8 parts, and in 1/2 of all of that there are 3 pieces. So what I have is, if I eat half of 3/4 of a cake, I actually eat 3/8 of the cake. Here's a third example. This one is 1/2 times 5/8. This means the same thing as finding 1/2 of 5/8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be starting with 5/8. Again, you can use anything you like. Maybe it's 5/8 of an apple, or 5/8 of my favorite Costco cake, carrot cake, by the way. And let's see here. So I'm dividing my whole amount into 8 equal pieces, and then I'm going to shade in 5/8. This is how much I start with, because I'm trying to find 1/2 of 5/8. So in this case, you can see that my model shows 5/8, and I want to take 1/2 of this. So I'm going to divide the model in half. And now I can see both 8ths and halves. And what I've done is, by cutting it again in half, I've created a new denominator. There is a new number of parts in this whole amount, and that number would be 16. Now if I look at just half of this shape, half of my array, half of the cake, let's say, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 pieces out of 16. So if I eat 1/2 of 5/8, I actually eat 5/16. All right, in this lesson you learned that we can multiply fractions by fractions using a model.